Welcome back to episode 2 of Wasted, the podcast where we listen to the people who know weight loss best. I'm talking to you, my plus size baddies. Hi, I'm your host, Corey. I've lost over 450 pounds, managed to keep it off, and in the past 5 years, completely transformed my life. And today we're going to talk about willpower. I'm not even kidding. This has been one of my favorite subjects for such a long time because everything you know about it, I'm not even kidding. It's a lie. Literally. If I asked you right now, what would you define willpower as? It would be wrong. Unless you know what I know, it would be wrong. And so I'm going to tell you everything I know. And so today we're going to talk about what willpower is, how you actually use it, tips, tricks, and strategies that I use that you can employ, and so much more. I'm telling you, so much of our life we've been taught that willpower is this force. You have to pull it up and then just that'll be that and you'll be good. And all the things that you wanted to do are done. Because that's how willpower works, right? Is that how it's working for you? I didn't think so. I told you it was all a lie. It is all a lie. But I'm going to show you the truth about what willpower is and how to use it to finally be successful in your weight loss journey. And so weight loss starts in the kitchen, and we're going to talk about that next week. But today we're going to talk about willpower because I personally believe that willpower as a plus size person trying to lose weight is one of the most understood things that would help us the most. I'm not even kidding. Once you know what willpower is and how to hack it and use it to your advantage, you're going to be doing dances around the scale, which we should also be getting rid of. So before I can talk about what willpower is, we first have to take a little stroll down memory lane and find out the history of willpower. And it's going to piss you off. Just remember, I am the messenger. Don't shoot me. Okay? So the whole idea of willpower back in 1700s, 1800s was if you believe it, you can achieve it. That if you want something, all you have to do is go for it. The motivation creates action and you'll get it. Sounds incredible, right? It's also the basis of the American dream. If you want it, you can achieve it. It's yours. You just have to go get it if you want it. Sounds inspiring, right? The flaw with this system is it doesn't describe what willpower is at all. So what happened? Because I like the, if you believe it, you can achieve it. That's what I'm talking about. That right there. She's a girl's girl. If you believe it, you can achieve it. Yes, ma'am. However, what we got came to us from Nazis. I know. Nazis. Nazis are the reason you have issues with willpower. They added this whole moral piece to it that if you're not achieving it, well, guess what? You're unmotivated. You're lazy, you lack discipline, blah, 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 blah. Are we sick of hearing Nazis talk? I am. I don't know about you. I hope you are. They were so hell-bent on this master race and this perfect physique. Sounds kind of gay, if you ask me. Just a little bit. Just a smidgen. But if you weren't meeting their standard, then you were weak. You had no willpower. You lacked all motivation, and you were lazy. But we hear that everywhere, don't we? If you're fat and you're not skinny, you're lazy, you're unmotivated. If you're homeless and you don't have a home, guess what? You're lazy, you're unmotivated. I can say because I was homeless. It's this whole mentality that's been preached and given and blah. Can I get rid of it, please? So let me ask you this. Do you want to listen to some shrimp dick little bitch kind of gay Nazis, or do you want to listen to me and science? I'm glad you chose me in science. So now I bet you're wondering, if willpower is not that, then what is willpower? Well, Dr. K, one of my favorite psychologists, says that willpower is one of 5 drivers of action. So basically, these are the 5 things that create action, the actual effort. The first one is desire. Think of this as sensory. If I smell it, I smell popcorn. I'm at the movie theater. Now I want popcorn. I saw Tony the Tiger in the aisles eyeing me down, and now I want some Tony the Tiger. That's a desire, but it can also be curiosity, interest. I wonder what toy's inside of Tony the Tiger. What are we getting today? You know what? I miss the magic spoons from the 90s that would change color. I'm getting distracted. You get the idea with desire. You then have habits. Habits are autopilot. They live in a different part of the brain, which is really hard to change because, again, these are hardwired. These are things that are created through repetition. And so at some point, it becomes autopilot. You can have good habits and you can have bad habits, just like you can have good desires and bad desires. Tony the Tiger will always be a good desire. We don't hate on Tony in this household. And then you have emotions, stress, boredom, excitement. These emotions can drive action, but they can also stop it. Think, I'm stressed and I don't want to do this, or I'm excited and I do want to. Let's go. And then you have identity, ambition, more this internal, which goes to who do I want to be? Who do I think I am? Who do I identify as? And what do I want to accomplish? What do I want to overcome? And again, you can have good ambition and you can have bad ambition. And then at the bottom of that list is willpower. Now, willpower is your override switch. It's what let you say F you to all the other 4 drivers of action. We're doing things my way. Sounds great, doesn't it? The problem is that it's fatigable, it's not really dependable, and it should really be used as a last resort and with a little bit of intelligence. So with willpower, let's say you're really anxious to go out. Willpower is going to override that and say, get your butt out there and go hang out with people. Willpower can also override desire. I'm in the aisle and I see Tony the Tiger eyeing me up and down. I'm like, Tony, we broke up. I can't. And I got to keep walking. So that's willpower. And it's fatigable. The more you use it, the more fatigued it becomes. And the less reliable it becomes, the more it gets fatigued. But don't worry. Just because it's fatigable doesn't mean you can't recharge it and that you can't grow it. You can still do those things, but you have to relearn what willpower is, how to actually use it, and you get to be a genius about it. I'm telling you, this whole willpower thing changed the game for me. Changed the game. Because when I'm sitting there thinking I'm supposed to be struggling and dying, no, not to lose weight. You don't have to. What? I know. Crazy. So I want to switch lanes and talk about a few different scientific studies that they did and how these studies helped us get a better grasp of what willpower is, how we can use it with what they found in the lab. I know, I'm excited. This is the cool part. So I'm sure you've seen on TikTok, Instagram, wherever you consume social media, that you'll see these videos of parents and they'll post their kid and they'll put like M&Ms in front of them and be like, don't eat them until I get back. And then you and I in real time get to watch this kid struggle for their lives. It's the cutest thing in the world. It's absolutely adorable. Some of them eat it. Some of them don't care. And then some of them are really sweet about it and wait. And then some of them put it in their mouth and give it a taste and put it back down like nothing ever happened. So what did this test show? It showed that certain kids could resist longer than others. This was a great study because they came back years later. And you know what they found? The kids who had better willpower in the marshmallow test had incredibly higher SAT scores. Do you know how hard it is? I know you've heard Freud and you think that because Freud said something about in childhood affects adulthood, it's really hard to find any type of statistical evidence to show that what happens in your childhood can affect or impact your adulthood. This study found that kids who avoided eating the marshmallow longer had significantly better SAT scores, whereas the other kids, not so much. The study also went through and looked at weight. And you know what they found? There was a 4% difference amongst the kids who did and the kids who didn't. 4%. It was a lot better indicator of their SAT score than it ever was their weight. So what's the takeaway with that? Willpower doesn't have that much hold over your weight. So stick with me because the next one's really cool. The next one is the radish experiment. What they did is they brought in students and they assigned some of them to the cookies and sweets group and they assigned some of them to the radish group. I know, put me in the cookies and sweets, coach. Tag me in. I'm your guy. I'll bring the trophy home. So the kids who had the radish condition, they could eat radishes. They couldn't indulge in the cookies and chocolate, but they were there. Same with the kids who had the chocolate and cookies. They could indulge in the cookies, but they couldn't eat the radishes. I don't want to fucking eat a radish anyway. My bad. So after they've had to sit in this room and suffer without being able to eat a cookie or candy, they get taken into this room where they're forced to solve an unsolvable puzzle. And guess what? Here's the cool part. The kids who were supposed to stay away from the cookies and the candy, the radish group, they gave up after 8 minutes. 8 minutes. I mean, that sounds like a long time for an unsolvable puzzle, but guess what? The kids who did the cookies and the candy, they worked on the puzzle for 25 or more minutes. 8 minutes to 25 or more. Why? Because they had used all of their willpower fighting off the urge to eat the cookies. Some of them took it, smelt the cookie. Oh, I can only eat fresh cookies too. They were testing them that day. But what did that teach us? That willpower is depletable. Because they were sitting there so hard for so long trying to resist those cookies, by the time they got in there to do the unsolvable puzzle, they were out of willpower. They only had about 8 minutes left in their tank. And the kids who were able to eat cookies and candy, they were able to sit there and work on the puzzle for over 25 minutes. That's willpower. But it showed us that it's fatigable. Don't let that make you say, oh, willpower is nothing now. No. Willpower still has a great use. But now that we know that it's fatigable, we can be smart in how we use it. And so I know we were talking about how emotions were a driver of action. Well, there was also a study done where they put a group of people and they were made to watch a really sad tearjerker movie. So they're sitting there and they're watching this movie. And guess what? There were 3 groups. One group was told you have to cry. The other group was told you can't cry. And the third group was told nothing. Do whatever you want. Afterwards, guess what? Unsolvable puzzle. I know. And what they found is that the people who had to suppress their emotions or amplify their emotions, they had less willpower. They had used it in the movie. They had none left for the unsolvable puzzle. All I'm saying is if you ever get taken into a room with a bunch of scientists, just know that it's probably an unsolvable puzzle. And so I just have one more study for you, and it's my favorite one. It's my favorite one because I think it does a phenomenal job at explaining willpower through the lens of a college student. This study started out by observing if students wore dirty socks or clean socks. The whole assumption was that kids with clean socks were going to perform better and that kids with dirty socks were going to perform worse. They found the exact opposite. Kids with the dirty socks, they actually were higher performers. They weren't spending their time worried about socks. They were spending their time worried about studies. Same with the kids who wore clean socks. They were more concerned about their socks than their studies. Not to say that that's where their mind was, but it's just that's how it presented and what they found in this study. And so they took that a step further and they started looking at kids with willpower at the beginning of a semester versus towards the end of the semester. And what they found is that kids who were high performers at the beginning of the study, as it got closer and closer to test time, they were actually partaking in a lot of bad behaviors. They were trying to study more, but in doing so, they were actually studying less. And what they would do is they would get in this mindset and say, I'm going to study. Ooh, it's test time. I'm about to get triple A pluses. But guess what? Willpower is a fatigable resource. So they're going at it 100 miles per hour and the willpower is there, but it can't keep up. So they deplete it all trying to study more, end up studying less and engaging in worse behaviors. I know. Bullshit, isn't it? If only we knew willpower was fatigable, we could be going about this all different. What does this mean? Trying to be the biggest loser ASAP is going to do the exact opposite of what you're trying to. You remember I was talking about in the last podcast episode, the highway, trying to get from plus size Bill to skinny Bill? You got to make slow and gradual changes. But if you hop in that left lane trying to take everyone with you on your way, you're more than likely going to be undermining your success. And so between these 4 experiments I've talked about, we've learned a lot about willpower. It's not an indicator for weight in adulthood from childhood. And it's not just a fatigable resource in terms of effort. It can also be things like trying to hold back emotions or trying to have more emotions. And then we found out that dirty socks were actually an indicator that you were doing good in school, but it was when those same students tried to study too hard that they ended up studying less and engaging in behaviors that they normally wouldn't be engaging in. I want to take a second to just demystify willpower and put this all together. Our entire lives, we have been told that willpower is this unlimited resource, this vast well that we can dig down into and pull up and overcome. And science has taught us that's not true at all. It's actually this effort that we can summon, but it is fatigable. It does deplete, and it's not super reliable. We should be relying on willpower when it comes to weight loss as a last resort. As a last resort. These 5 drivers of change all have to do with motivation. Now, there's 2 main types of motivation, and you need to know about them because they're going to be the difference between stable motivation and unstable motivation. Unstable motivation is what we call extrinsic motivation. This is motivation that happens outside of the self. Think you're at a job and your boss is like, hey, I need this report done by Monday. That's going to motivate you to get the work done by Monday. It can become out of emotion, not wanting to let the boss down, being fearful. It can come out of ambition. I want to be the type of employee who shows up and gives his all. But extrinsic motivation relies on the other person. It's good in the short term. It is not good in the long term at all. So what's the option? What's the alternative? That's intrinsic motivation. This is where you're controlling. It's coming from within. I'm doing this because I want to, not because so-and-so said I had to, or society has deemed me unworthy. I'm doing it because I want to, because this is what I want to achieve. Like when you're going to the gym and you want to start out and you have a gym buddy, that gym buddy is going to act as external motivation at first. But guess what? That gym buddy falls off, you fall off. So you have to find a way, capitalize on the extrinsic motivation when you have it, but find a way to pull that extrinsic into intrinsic so you have control over it, not someone else, you. And so when we look at the 5 drivers of change, we can see the differences between extrinsic and intrinsic. When it comes to desire, you could be motivated. Like when you walk down the aisle and you see Tony the Tiger and you're like, ooh, I want Tony. But guess what? Your friend's with you, your partner's with you, and you're like, oh, no, I can't get it. They're here. Extrinsic, but you need to find a way to make it intrinsic. So it's you being like, Tony, not today. I'm going to go over a bunch of strategies and tools and tips. I mean, we're not even getting started on what it comes to willpower and how to use it, because it is the single-handedly most valuable thing that you're going to learn, and that's going to transform your weight loss experience. Everyone says weight loss starts in the kitchen. I think you got to start with willpower. I think you got to have willpower before you go into the kitchen, willpower before you go into exercise, willpower before you start looking at mindsets, because there's so many mindsets out there that look at willpower through the Nazi model. And I don't want to be looking at willpower through the Nazi model. So we know what willpower is. How the fuck do we actually use it, Corey? I'm glad you asked. I'm going to start with the process model of self-control. And it basically says that when fatigue sets in, your body's going to want to do 3 things. The first is your motivation is going to lean to minimum effort and maximum payoff. That's the first thing. But it's not just your motivation. The second thing is that your attention also leads towards the easiest and fastest payoff. And the third is that monitoring your goals, those items that fall in the internal ambition kind of category, they fall in the back and you're not really concerned about them. That is what happens when fatigue sets in, when you've used all your willpower and you're now in willpower fatigue. Because again, willpower isn't this unmeasurable force that you can summon. It's a biological tool. So we got to use biology to understand it, to use it, and to maximize it. So now that we've talked about what willpower is, what it definitely isn't, I want to talk to you about how you fuel willpower, because this one is crazy. There was this study done. It's called the milkshake study. And there were some people that had a milkshake that had sugar in it, glucose. And then there were others that had artificial sweeteners, AKA no glucose. Guess what the test they had was? Guess. An unsolvable puzzle, you wild animals. But it found that willpower was stronger when they had glucose in their system, when they had sugar, than it was when they had no sugar. Does this mean you should go down a bag of sugar for limitless willpower? Absolutely not. Because in that same regard, when you have low blood sugar, your inhibitions are kind of lowered. You're more likely to do things that you wouldn't do. And so when you start a diet and you're like, fuck sugar, and you just crash out, it takes a second for your body to rebound. And in that moment, you're trying to rebound. Guess what? You're going to do the one thing you're trying to avoid doing. Whereas if you have diabetes or you have high blood sugar and you have that high blood sugar, you still have energy and stuff. But if you're eating fast carbs, this high glycemic index where it spikes your blood sugar and then you crash, you're going from the energy to guess what? No energy, and you want to eat again, spike back up and fall back down. And so this is why eating foods that are rich in fiber, that have a low glycemic index, are so sustainable and helpful to willpower. Because these are foods that are going to take time to break down. Proteins, vegetables, those things are going to be long term. You still need carbs. Carbs are a major source of glucose. You need all of these items for willpower. Okay, so there was this time that I went to go on a diet. And what I did is I said, okay, I have 2,000 calories a day. I know everything I'm going to eat. I had the exact same thing for breakfast, lunch, dinner. I even had prepackaged chicken breast, and I would just take one out, cook it, and that was it. Guess what? My blood sugar crashed. I lost all that willpower, and it lasted about 2 days. My willpower was fighting for its life. But that's because I was relying on willpower. And what have we learned? You don't want to rely on willpower. You want to use willpower. Willpower is not the motivating force. That's not where you're pulling from. And so this is going to affect a lot of different communities differently. And so if we're looking at glucose and that's what fuels willpower, we also have to look at, okay, who are the populations that are going to have glucose issues? Glucose is used for the immune system. So if you have an autoimmune disorder, guess what? Your body is going to be using a lot of glucose for that. And so I'm going to show you the science and how to actually use willpower to your advantage. And so it doesn't matter. It matters that you know that that's happening. That's not going to affect your weight loss results, at least if you listen in to me. And so if you have diabetes, you know your blood sugar can go high, low. So be cognizant of it. Track it better. Be mindful. Let tracking your glucose be, I'm tracking my willpower. And women, when y'all are going through your luteal phase, guess what? Your body is craving, absolutely destroying glucose. So be cognizant during that time that your body's craving it. But don't try to use too much willpower in that time. Have that be a low willpower moment. Give yourself grace. It's your body. It's going to do what it wants to do. And this goes for any marginalized group of people. All that oppression and all of that day-to-day grind, and it's going to be much more amplified. Also, if you're homeless or if you're low income, you may be struggling to find healthy foods that are affordable. Your access to food really depends and it can fluctuate. Even then, you're having to make constant decisions, 20 more decisions than anyone should ever be having to make, weighing options, outcomes, futures, and trying to get yourself out of that situation. That's going to use so much willpower, so much glucose. So give yourself grace. You're in a situation that's impossible regardless. If you want to start losing weight and add that to the process, and that's going to help you feel good, feel better about yourself, do it. But understand that you're going to need to have a program that requires as little willpower from you as possible. And I'm going to show you how in just a minute. And if you're trans and you're on hormone therapy, guess what? Your body is learning how to fuel itself all over again. And so give yourself grace. Know that your body is having to learn and change the way it functions, which is going to impact you differently. Keep these things in mind. I'm going through this list of different people, different communities, not to be like, well, you're at a disadvantage. Quite the opposite. You are actually at the best advantage because I'm about to explain to you how to use willpower to your advantage successfully to lose weight amidst all of this. Because guess what? I was a day over homelessness when I applied for the TV show. And guess what? There was still a long journey to go back to being financially dependent. It wasn't oh, okay, I have an apartment, a house, and a job now. I'm stable. No. It was so much more than that. But I had to learn a system that would allow me to be able to lose weight in those high stress environments. Because guess what? We don't want to rely on willpower. And so all I'm telling you is that your willpower is being depleted. But guess what? I'm not telling you to rely on it. Quite the opposite. I'm telling you to throw it out the fucking door, at least for now. So I know I have y'all ready to take willpower out back and old yeller it. Just like I'm fucking sick of it because everything I know about willpower is a lie and I'm having to learn it all again. Yes. When it comes to willpower, we're looking at dopamine. Dopamine is quick fixes. That's in the moment. That's I want candy and you take it and you eat and you feel good while you're eating it. Oh, it's so yummy. And then afterwards, you feel unsatisfied. You feel like you let yourself down. Dopamine is that quick fix. Serotonin is that feeling of satisfied. When you resist the dopamine urge, that's where you get the serotonin. Guess what? Serotonin, super boring compared to dopamine. But they push and they pull. They're opposite forces. So the more you're doing dopamine, the less you're having the serotonin. The more serotonin, a little less dopamine. It's not to say that they are equally pushing and canceling each other out, but they're opposing forces because they come from different parts of the brain. So when we think of willpower, imagine you have a seesaw. And on one end of that seesaw are the four main drivers of action: habits, emotion, desire, and that internal kind of ambition, sense of self. And on the other side is willpower. And that willpower is there to balance things out and override. The only time that you need willpower is when you're going against the grain, is when there's friction. So think I'm on the highway to Skinnyville, USA, and I'm trying to get there, but guess what? I just got rid of all the foods I enjoyed and I replaced them with only foods that I hate. Well, your car lost all of its parts because you were doing things too fast, too quickly. So think about willpower as salt. You're only adding what's necessary. You're not adding more. If you leave it out, it tastes bland. If you add too much, no one's eating that. No one. So how can we use it to our advantage? How do we turn willpower into a superpower? Oh, I'm so happy you asked. When it comes to willpower, you want to use this as your last option, which means that when you do use it, you want to be precise. You don't want to have to do this effort that you're going to have to keep repeating and keep persisting. Think the marshmallow test. You're not trying to sit there and see how much willpower you have. Wrong. You're trying to see how little willpower you can use. The opposite. Isn't that cool? Fuck the Nazis. So how does this work? Well, when we start losing weight, the first thing we do is we throw out all of our recipes, all of our foods, and we replace them with an entirely different menu, something that's not going to be successful. So how do we use willpower to our advantage? You've heard this 1,000 times. Well, you should eat before you go to the grocery store. Guess what? You absolutely should eat before you go to the grocery store. Why? It's going to satisfy any craving or urges that you have in the moment. It's also going to give you glucose, which is what we need to fuel the brain, and it's going to allow you to go in there and be able to make good decisions. However, you should not be doing grocery shopping at the end of the day because that is when your energy gets depleted. A great way is to do online pickup. You can go online. You're not going to be tempted by all the things in the store. You can select your groceries. You can pick them up, have them delivered. It's a much more balanced approach. But if you have to go to the store, even if you have to shop online, eat before you do it. We've heard it 1,000 times. Now that you've heard the science about what willpower is and what fuels it, you're like, yeah, I should fucking eat before I go to the store. You should. When you're at the store, understand you're still going to be dealing with those desires. You're going to be walking down the aisles and you're going to see Tony and he's going to be looking at you and he's going to be like, how are you doing? And I'm like, stop. Ignore Tony. And what you want to do is shop around the outside of the store. You're going up and down the aisles. You're looking at too many things, too many desires, too many wants. You're having to utilize a lot of willpower. We are going for the lowest willpower output possible. So you shop on the outsides of the stores, and then you go into the aisles that you need stuff from specifically. You can walk up and down the cleaning aisle all day, unless this is what, My Strange Addiction. I think you're good. But when you start walking down other aisles, you're giving yourself so many moments of desire where you're having to use willpower, even if it's in many ways. Try to take that out and stick, again, to the outside where the meat is, where the veggies are. Even if you're going to the frozen to get frozen vegetables, try to stick to the good places. And then if you have to go up and down the aisles, do it. Now, if you're a mom and you have kids, I suggest doing your shopping online and then going in and picking it up. But that's one way that you can use willpower. It's knowing, anticipating what's going to come, and then being smart, using your brain, knowing, okay, I got a certain amount of willpower in the day. Let me just use a little pinch, a little sprinkle, a little dash of thought. This can also be the same with going out to eat. You go to that drive-through, guess what? You're not seeing a single soul. And nowadays, you're even talking to AI, even better. At least for me, when I was chunky, I hated having to go order food in front of people. So I would always go to the drive-through. And guess what? I would just see them at the end. They'd hand it to me, scan my card, and I'm gone. But you know what I started forcing myself to do for a long time? If you want it, you have to go inside. Why? Because we're going to kick in that extrinsic motivation of the person now sitting there judging your choices in front of you. You're going to be less likely to binge and overeat. That said, if you go too hard to the sun and you undereat and you don't satisfy your desire and you get absolutely nothing, guess what? Your blood sugar is going to drop and you're going to want to go back up there and order the whole menu and an ice cream. If you want the ice cream, just get the ice cream. And this is also part of the reason why I say in the last episode, don't overcorrect. When you make a mistake and you're like, the next morning you wake up and you're like, ho, 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 well, my willpower don't know what's coming to it today because I'm about to make up for all the bad stuff I did yesterday, today, and then some. And that's the mentality we have because we've been taught that if you want it bad enough, you're just going to suffer through it. We try to prove ourselves in this some macho, I don't understand, weird way. Don't do that. You're defeating yourself. Instead, what you do, let's say you go to that fast food restaurant, right? You get your meal, you sit down, and you want more. Go get more. Don't deny yourself, because the more you deny yourself, the more you're fighting a desire, the more you're using willpower. Guess what? The bigger that desire is going to get. And you say, hey, I'm going to indulge a little bit, get what I want, and you give yourself the grace. Oh my goodness, give yourself the grace. If you're not giving yourself the grace, you're listening to the Nazis. Are we listening to the Nazis or are we listening to me and science? Give yourself grace. This is not a perfect process. So you make a mistake, you go to the fast food place, you splurge, you get a few extra things than what you wanted. If at any point in that meal, you're like, I'm done. And then you set your plate in front of you and you just sit there, food right here, right in front of you, and you're just sitting there using your willpower. It's a depletable resource. You left the lights on at home. Turn them off. Do what you have to do to ruin it in the moment. Throw it in the trash can. Ruin it. Do something. Because guess what? That is a single act of willpower in a moment. It uses as little willpower as possible, but it stops you from having to use willpower on demand constantly. You ruin it in a second, and guess what? Bing, bang, boom. I don't got to worry about it anymore. At all. Now I want to take a quick left turn for a second before I go into more examples and more tools that you can use and how you can use willpower in your day-to-day life. And I want to hit the biggest on the head, which is environment. Your environment is what you live in. It's everything you see, everything you do, everyone who you interact with. Your environment, you create. No one else, you. You get to create your environment. And so if you create an environment where you need a ton of willpower, you're not going to be successful. You need to create an environment where you need as little willpower as possible. Say it with me, as little willpower as possible. Doesn't it sound so good? It's no longer this infinite source. It's this override feature, and we just need enough to override it. And so when it comes to environment, this has been the biggest, hands down, way in which I've changed my relationship with food. I have a mini fridge, and in that mini fridge, I have ice cream that I don't particularly love. It's okay. I'll eat it in a pinch, but I don't love it. You know why? Because if I love it and it's that accessible to me, I'm using willpower 24/7 to fight it. It's not going to last. If I bring Reese's in this home, it's never going to see tomorrow. Today's the day it dies. But so when you're shopping and you're getting food, you control your environment. I love bananas and I love apples, but I have fruit if I need a sweet fix. I have ice cream, little ice cream bars that are 39 calories that I can eat if I really need to. And it's an acceptable fix. They can sit there and they can sit there for 2 weeks and I not touch them unless I want them. But guess what? If I had ice cream in there, it'd be gone by the end of the day, the first day. Isn't it crazy how with the way we've been taught about willpower, we've sabotaged ourselves in almost every way? This can be when you're driving down the road. Instead of going the route that takes you by all your favorite fast food places, you go a route that doesn't. It just takes away that desire, that sensory input, that I see it, I want it. I hear it, I smell it. Oh my, did I tell y'all? I live directly next to a bakery. It smells like cookies all day. All day it smells like cookies. It's heavenly. It's exhausting, but it's really nice. Luckily, I have to swim to get the cookies, so there's controlling the environment. There's a river between us. Environment controlled. It can be in keeping ingredients instead of already processed food. If you have ingredients, you're going to have to work to put it together. But guess what? That working to put it together, especially if you don't love it, isn't going to translate well when you can hop in the car and go get some somewhere else. So you have to find something that's good enough to have in the house, not good enough to binge, healthy, and that you're not going to be able to just go get something else. And this is where we talk about the slow roll, the slow transition. I love meal prepping. Where I'm at currently, I cannot meal prep. I don't have the fridge space. If I could, I would. I miss meal prepping. But meal prepping was such a great way. Why? Because I had meals ready to go. They were frozen. I could go get them. I could eat them. They were low calorie, high protein. Meal prepping was a great way to control my environment because it meant I didn't have to cook. I hate cooking. I hate cooking. I didn't have to cook. I also wasn't tempted to go out and get stuff, but when I did cook, I could cook it all at once, and it can also be in small switches. You know, when we were talking about glucose and how this plays with willpower, I would drink cherry Coke and sweet tea all day, every day, if I could. If I had the ability, it'd be that and Tony the Tiger. That would be my ideal diet. But it's not the ideal diet for me or my body and what I want. And so to some things like Tony the Tiger, I've had to say goodbye to. Me and Tony, we're divorced. We're too toxic. You'll probably think I'm a nut. And so certain things you just have to say goodbye to. And if you're at work, one way you can control your environment is by having alternatives there. And if you're a parent or you have roommates and you have food in that house where you can't control your environment, have them have their own cabinet space. Now, I know what you're thinking, Corey, I know what's behind the cabinet. You and me both. It's going to help a little, but so try to find ways to control the environment, to put things that y'all both enjoy and to keep the things that they absolutely love and adore out. My thing is that if I want it, I'll go get it, but I can only get one. If I want ice cream, I'll go to a place, I'll get ice cream, I will eat the fuck out of it there, and then I'll come home and I'm good. But I don't bring the ice cream back home with me. We'll talk more about food and everything having to do with the kitchen next week. But for now, just understand that a part of willpower begins with your environment. Have an environment where you don't have to use willpower. So you know it's another thing that I would have in my house instead of ice cream? Cool Whip. But guess what? Even if I'm eating the fat-free Cool Whip and I'm binging on it, I'm not doing damage. Any damage I'm doing is minuscule. Why? Because I was smart and I knew that I didn't want to use my willpower. And so I got an alternative for when I didn't, for when my willpower ran out. Do you see how once you understand what willpower is, you can begin mastering your life so that you're using as little willpower as possible? Oh, it's heavenly. You can also strengthen your willpower. I know, we can strengthen it. It is a biological source, but there are studies that have found that you can strengthen it almost like a muscle over time. So the way you strengthen it is by adding little checkpoints, small goals, small wins. Because if you win, you get that serotonin, that good feeling, that, ooh, I'm satisfied feeling. It goes back to this whole idea. If you do good for yourself, you'll keep doing good for yourself and it'll just cascade. How many times have you gone and got your hair done and you're like, ooh, who is she? Only to turn around, eat better that day, feel better about yourself. If you do good for yourself, you're going to keep doing good for yourself. And so for me, I know me. I'm realistic. I know who I am. The only way I've gotten through this process is by looking me dead in the face and going, Corey, you like sugar too much. You love sugar drinks. You'd kill for sugar drinks. I'd kill for Tony the Tiger. I'd maim for a sugar drink. So one way you can strengthen it is by adding quick wins, checkpoints, just to give you a little bump in your step. For me, I use this when it comes to drinks. I love sweet tea and cherry Coke, but even if I have the sugar-free versions of them, I'm still going to binge them. I'm going to drink inordinate amounts of them. If anything, I feel like the safety cap's been let off and there's no sugar in them. I'm going to drink all of it because it's not going to affect me. But for me, going back to that identity ambition, I don't want to be drinking artificial sweeteners like that. So what do? I wake up in the morning and my rule is, and this is the first time I've really found success with moderation. I can drink one bottle of water in the morning first thing. Doesn't matter what time I wake up, bottle of water, and then I'm free to drink whatever I want, as long as it's sugar-free, until 4 p.m. After 4 p.m., sometimes 5, and I'm lax with the number. 4 or 5, all that matters is that I'm not over-consuming them. Some days it's 4, depending on my willpower. Some days it's 5. I go with the flow. It's not perfect. It's an art. So it's just water. However, that's too restrictive for me. I know that I'm not going to be successful with that and I'm going to want to go back and drink. And so what did I do? I added back in less resistance, which is if I'm out and about, I can get a sugar-free version after 4 p.m., any type of sugar-free beverage. And so what does this mean? If I really want it, I can go out and I can get it. I don't feel restricted in that I can't have it at all. It's still in my grasp, but I've put a little hurdle in front of it. And so now it's just a little bit further out of my grasp. And so there was a study with M&Ms where you put it right in front of you, you're going to eat all the M&Ms, all of them. But if you put it on the other side of the room, you'll grab a few, sit down, and you're not going to eat as much. But they also found that if you just put it a little bit to where you have to lean forward and grab, you're going to eat just as little as if it was on the other side of the room. I created a system when it comes to drinking sugar drinks that doesn't feel restrictive, because even in the evening, I can go get it if I want it, but I can't have it here. And I don't feel like I'm having to use my willpower and fight urges when I'm living in an absolute void. At least I can go out and get them. It's like I can have it, but it's just out of reach, like the M&Ms. And so I'll go get it and I'll come back and I'll sit with it, but I'm not going to be eating as much as if it was right in front of me. But guess what? That first quick win of the day, that first bottle of water, it's so little. It's such a little thing to do. And there's so many days I'm forcing myself through that bottle of water, but I do it. And it gives me this sense of accomplishment. It gives me that serotonin. It's not giving me dopamine because it's just water, but it's giving me serotonin because I'm like, you stuck to this goal and I'm powered. I'm ready to go. So when it comes time at 4 p.m. for me to cut myself off, I've supercharged my willpower. I've given it a little boost for the day, a little ump. So when 4 p.m. hits, I'm like, okay, no more. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that insane? So with willpower, the only time you're using it is when there's friction. So if there's a desire and it's, I want this piece of candy, that's the desire. Willpower is saying, I'm not going to have the piece of candy. Willpower is overriding that desire. But what if the desire was, I want that banana? Well, guess what? Willpower isn't going to override that. You don't need willpower for that. Go eat the banana. However, if you have banana and you have candy, well, what are you going for? Because I'm going for the candy, hands down, over the banana. So going back to the environment, keeping healthy alternatives makes it easier when it comes to using willpower, because you're not having to decide between the really great thing and the not so great thing. You're picking the thing that in that moment is great. Of all the options I got, the banana's fucking phenomenal. I love bananas, but I don't like bananas when there's Reese's. Habits require no motivation. They're just intrinsic. You do them out of habit. I'm going to give you an example of smoking. You're smoking cigarettes. You love that cigarette. You love smoking it. It feels incredible. That's the dopamine. But then after you're back in that, man, I should quit smoking. But when you quit smoking, you're getting that long-term serotonin satisfied feeling, not the dopamine hit fix. Because you hit the dopamine, then you have no serotonin. You're like, well, I need more dopamine. In order to break habits, find a way to slowly etch them or replace them with new habits. You can also have good habits. One of my good habits is now, I don't know when the fuck it happened, but if I get stressed, I have to go for a walk. If I can't go for a walk and I'm under stress, I'm dying. I don't know what's happening. I need to get out and I need to go for a walk because it's the way my body now processes stress. That habit happened slowly over the course of time. I started working out. I started going and walking. As I started walking more, something happened. As I got rid of the habits of relying food for comfort, it then became walking. What? I know. That's crazy for me to be like, I have to go walking to calm down. Who is she? Do I need to be checked out? And then with emotions, a lot of times it's creating forward momentum against the sad, but there's also having to create a little bit of friction because you don't want to be too gung-ho. Here's the cool one, because when it comes to friction about identity, ambition, whatever your identity with weight and your weight loss goals are, they really live in this category. And so when you're looking at, I want to be skinny, I want to run a triathlon, I want to be swole, I want to get bitches, all of those things, guess what you're tying it to? Guess what? I'm putting a bow and I'm tying it. You're tying it to the scale. And I hate that bitch. So that's why last week I told you, get a new scale. You're looking at the result. And if you're focused on the action, I promise you, on God, the results will come. But if you're too busy looking at the results and less concerned with the action, you're not going to have success. And so, a big part of willpower is finding a new scale, finding a new identity. Instead of it being, I want to lose 30 pounds, let it actually be, I want to run a triathlon. Fall in love with the running of the triathlon, ignore the scale. But don't be hyper concerned about how fast it's going down or how quickly it's going down. Because guess what? When you get on the highway from Chunky Monkey to Skinnyville, guess what? Doesn't matter if you're in the slow lane. It doesn't matter if you're in the fast lane. You're still gonna get there. So I'm going to go just a little breakthrough of some strategies I would use and how I would maximize those and minimize my rely on willpower. And so the whole point of willpower in this entire ordeal is that you shouldn't be having friction. You have a finite amount of willpower. It does recharge, you can strengthen it, but either way, as strengthened as it can be, it's still going to be finite. And so the way in which you master willpower is by learning how to get rid of it completely. Throw it in the trash. Because in reality, you shouldn't need willpower to lose weight. Going back to that first study about marshmallows, it only made a 4% difference on a person's weight. And that's because weight is decided by so much more. And so anyone who sits there and just says you have to grit your teeth through it, or they think weight loss needs to be this horrible, mundane, awful thing, it's not. And I tell you what, I got self-control like nobody's business. And the more you use it, the more you strengthen it over time, the more wins you have, the more evidence you have, the more willpower you're going to have. And every day you should be supercharging it. So I want to talk about effort. And effort is essentially the amount of motivation you're going to need with the friction you're going to need to push against to get the result you want. The amount of effort it's going to take to walk a mile versus the amount of effort it's going to take to walk 10 miles. I'm going to be more likely to walk the mile than I ever am the 10 miles. Honestly, you're lucky if you get me from here to the end of the couch back when I was 664 pounds. But performance control is just about the same topic. Making sure we're not overperforming while also staying true to our goals, our wants. I want to lose weight. Yeah, I want to put a little effort into it, a little get that ball rolling. I'm not saying you can't do that or that you shouldn't be putting into it. I'm just saying, don't put all your into it. Slow burn. We're going for a slow burn here. It's more about perseverance. I know in last week's episode, I said, y'all are the masters of resilience and getting up. Perseverance is that ability to have little mistakes and keep going. So the way you do this is you focus on the task at hand. The more projects you have, willpower doesn't exist in a vacuum. You don't have X amount of willpower for working out, X amount of willpower for eating healthy, X amount of power for dealing with your boss, X amount of power for dealing with your kids. You only have one supply of willpower. And so you're trying to siphon that to every one of those categories. And so the more you're using in one is the less you have available in others. And so when it came to me and working out is a high friction, maximum effort thing for me. That was very hard and very difficult at first, but I had my diet down. There was no way I was going to master the gym until I had my diet down. That's where all my willpower was going at first, is the kitchen. And so had I kicked the gym in high gear at the same time I was beginning to learn how to lose weight and find a diet that fit my body, fit my taste, I would have never been successful. I waited until I had one mastered, and then I went to the other. And in all honesty, it's up to you how you want to lose weight and go about your journey. You only have so much willpower, so you decide where you put it and how many baskets you're going to put it into. Be cognizant about what's going on around you in your day. If you have a lot of pressure at work, deal with that. If you're quitting an addiction, that's where all your willpower needs to be dedicated to. And so, what are ways you can still lose weight without having to use all that willpower? Well, the first thing is focus on one project at a time. Don't be taking on 1,000 things. Don't be making New Year's resolutions like 100 of them. Stick to one or two. And let's go back to the idea about me drinking the sugar-free beverages in the afternoon, but I have to have a drink of water in the morning, and I can only drink water after 4. That is a habit that is being built at this very moment. Guess how many other habits I'm trying to build while I'm building that one? Zilch. Why? Because when it comes to drinking a bunch of beverages, that is my normal. So I'm focusing on this until it becomes a habit, to when there's no more effort required, to where the desire is manageable, where I can see it and be like, oh, I want it, but I'm not going to splurge. I'm not going to over binge it. And the way that happens is with time, moderation, and willpower. I have a lot of things pulling my energy, and so I'm doing what I can. I'm maximizing my potential, the most I can get with what I have. And guess what? It's working. I'm telling you, this is the first time I've ever been able to find success with moderation, finding complex solutions to really simple problems. That's all willpower is now that you know it. It's using your brain to outsmart yourself. And so for me, when I first started, it was I wouldn't drink after 4 p.m. And I was white knuckling it there for a second. And then I'd go out and I'd be like, oh, now I want to drink. And I'd be like, no, you can't. You can't. You've got to suffer. But the reality is that no, I added that one aspect in, and it went from something that was failing and taking all my willpower to something that was manageable, that was tangible, that I could get. And so performance control has a lot to do with the process model of self-control, which, if you remember, we talked about, that's where the three things happen, where your body just switches from higher thinking to quick and easy options. And so performance control is literally last week when I said, don't hop in that left-hand lane, just slowly go over and you're going to get there. God, you're going to get there. So I want to leave you with one last tool, and this is going to be probably the hardest piece of information, but I'm going to show you how to make it the easiest. There are certain things that you just have to put as off limits. I love cereal, but the last time I had cereal or Frosted Flakes was on the TV show when I had to write a letter to food, and I had to say goodbye to certain things because I would have never left them. And that's really what the letter was. Me and Tony, we got divorced. Y'all probably think I'm a freak, but that's really what had to happen. Guess what? I have one rule for Tony the Tiger, and this is for the thing that I love most, that I want most. I can have Tony the Tiger when I go skydiving. You heard me, when I hop out of a fucking plane. And guess what? There's a weight limit to hop on that plane. And so a lot of my motivator through this entire weight loss journey has been that one day I'm gonna hop out of a plane, and if I live, I'm gonna eat some Tony the Tiger. We're gonna get back together. But it'll only be that once, unless I set the goal that I have to hop out of a plane every time, in which case I'm just gonna become a pilot. But you have to be able to cut certain things out. Candy, you don't have. You don't eat candy. But what do you get as a fix for candy? Do you get a low-calorie version of it? Because you can't take something that you love and that you eat and that is integral and just poof, I don't need it. I don't want it. You need to have something to replace it. And this is the whole purpose of willpower. And when we talk about habits, finding new habits to replace the bad ones, finding middle points where we can slowly wean off the habit. Oh, a girl had messaged me asking about quitting vaping before surgery. When it came to me to quit vaping before surgery, I had to go from nicotine to lower nicotine to lower nicotine to no nicotine to eventually quitting. I could have tried to go cold turkey. That would have taken all my willpower. And I had a lot of other things going on at the time that I needed to do. I did what I could slowly, and I used the willpower I had, and it wasn't that hard by the time I got to the end. But now that I no longer vape, guess what? I won't go pick one back up to save my life because I know that some doors just have to stay closed. That's just how it is because we are such creatures of habit. It's not to say that one day when you hit your goal, you can't have these things. I can go today and I can get Reese's and I can get all of these candies, but guess what? I'm not going to overeat them. I'm not going to binge them. Why? Because I have so many other things I've learned to like over the years. By the time I go back to try them, my taste buds have shifted entirely. I don't want them anymore. And so part of willpower is sometimes not saying, okay, I'm going to have it and I'm going to resist it. It's saying, I'm not going to have it at all. And there's something in your brain. I'm not kidding you. There's something in your brain that switches when you're like, I'm not having this anymore, and you don't have it and it's no longer an option. You're still going to walk past it. I walk past Tony every time I go into the grocery store. They have Tony here in the Netherlands. I walk past him, blow him a kiss, and keep going. But guess what? That's what it'll be. You'll be able to walk past it, see it, be like, that'd be lovely, but keep going, indifferent to it. The desire's there because you've seen it, but it's muted. The dopamine association that you have with that desire has been depleted. It's no longer there. You see it, it's like, yeah, that'd feel good, but I don't want it. It's not going to get me to where I want to be. And this change doesn't happen instantly. It's not, oop, I wake up, boom, all better. No. It takes time. You're going to fall off the wagon, but you just got to do it. So let's talk about a few examples now that we've looked at what you can do to strengthen it and like small wins. and apply that to a situation or situations where you're failing and how you can use failure to strengthen your willpower. So, this one example, we were actually filming the TV show, and I went to a gas station near my apartment, and they had a double-decker oatmeal cream pie. Oh my God, it was the most beautiful thing. I got it, I hop in the car, I'm driving, I take a bite. And it was right after I took that bite, I was like, this isn't what I want. I could feel that disappointment and that feeling like a failure. And so I instinctively just threw it out the window. I took one bite of it and threw it out the window. I had the taste, but I also know that had I ate the whole thing, I would have felt like I failed. But in doing that one little thing, throwing it out the window, I used such little willpower, but I actually supercharged my willpower for the rest of the day. I did better that day than I had done most days. Why? Because I found a win in the midst of failing. And so, even in a moment like that where I was failing and I still found a way to throw it out the window and succeed, sometimes you need to use it to encourage good behavior or to foster good behavior. So, you know how I said small wins? We can have small goals, small accomplishments for us to hit. So if I look at the sink to the left of me right now, I can see a lot of dishes that I don't want to do. And you're going to think I'm a lunatic when I tell you this, but the way in which I'll get up and do those dishes is I will tell myself, you just have to get up and wash one dish, just one. And it doesn't need, I want a piece of silverware. I want the smallest thing. If you go into this thinking I'm going to wash all the dishes, it's not going to work. You literally have to be like, I'm going to go and I'm going to wash that one piece of silverware. And you go and you start it and you're like, oh, okay, I started. The hardest part, the biggest hurdle you have to overcome with motivation is the getting started. And so you find ways, just like you find little ways to use willpower, you find little ways to use it to get started. Because once you get started and you're over there, you can wash that one dish. That's your only goal. That's the only goal you have is to wash that one dish. And then after it's done, you can go, okay, I'm going to wash some more. But you also have to be willing to give yourself the permission to go, I'm going to go sit back down because I don't want to be washing dishes right now. I just don't have it in me. And so if you can get started and find ways to take that one little leap forward, it can cascade a lot of times. You can use that one leap just to get going, get the ball rolling. And then you washed all the dishes. Why? You were there, soap was on the rag. Maybe not all of them, but you've washed some of them. You've made some amount of progress. And guess what? That is going to be intoxicating to you because little goals, little wins, success breeds success. The more good you do for yourself, the more good you're going to do. I'll do this a lot of times with work. I work with a lot of spreadsheets throughout the day, and my rule for myself is that I get it all ready. It takes nothing to get the files and the folders, kind of organize them, and have them ready for when I'm ready to sit down and work. Now, by the time I get them organized, I can stop and go do something else, or I can keep working. And do you know how many times I keep working? More times than I stop. And it's one of the things that has made me so productive in work and how I can work full time, do this podcast, and all the other little side projects I'm doing. It's because I'm using willpower to ignite that little spark. Think about this with weight loss. You go, you find that new recipe. Ooh, you also not only feel good with that, you're going to be making better decisions for the day. The more good decisions you make, the better you're going to feel. But let me say this loud and clear for you. Desire, flimsy, comes and goes. Some days you may have desire to do X, Y, Z. Some days you may not. Some days your good habits are going to prevail. Some days they're not. Some days it's going to be bad habit central. And that's okay. And guess what else? Your emotions, those are all over the place, day to day, up and down, but it's just a part of life. And so you have to learn to navigate all of these things that are going to demand your willpower, your motivation, your aspirations, all of that. You have to manage and you have to use as little willpower as possible. Finding substitutes for desires. I desire ice cream. Now I desire Cool Whip. Why? Because Cool Whip's gonna fill the serotonin, the feel good that I'm doing good. It's gonna give me the dopamine fix and it's gonna allow me to transition. It's gonna put me in this transition point to where I now rely on Cool Whip. And guess what? I can then switch that to the 39 calorie little bars I got in the fridge. Why? Because I would binge Cool Whip and I just kind of like these. They're good, but I'm not craving them. So let's summarize. We've talked a lot about willpower, but let's just go for a quick recap of it. Willpower is one of 5 drivers of action. The 5 drivers are desires. I see food, I smell food, I hear food, I want food, I'm curious, I'm interested. That's desire. Habits, these are hardwired in our brain. This is turn your brain off. Habits are the hardest of them all to change. I know I didn't go into many details, tips, and tricks about how to actually change habits. That may be another podcast episode in itself. One key thing, though, to remember with habits, they're involuntary. They're happening without any type of cognition. I have a habit where I'll get up and I'll go to the fridge the second I feel hungry, and I have to stop myself, but it's a habit. So there's no stop in between thought and action. So I have to add something to bring cognition back into it. A bell on the fridge. Emotions. Now emotions come and go, but they can be sad, upset, also excited. They can be drivers of action, but they can also stop action from happening. And then there's our identity, our ambition, who I want to be, the body that I want to be in. Those types of things are also drivers of action. And those things, most oftentimes, at least in terms of weight loss, are tied to the scale. And so if our identity and ambition and everything we're going for is dependent on that scale, you're not going to be successful. You have to find a new scale. Use that one to check in. It's going to reflect the progress you're doing, but the progress that you're making, that's the change. That's the weight loss. The scale will catch up. Focus on the actions and the scale will follow. And then there's willpower. Willpower is the override button. Willpower is to override the other 4 drivers of change. It's the thing that lets us manually override and go the opposite direction, which is going to create friction. And the amount of friction followed by the amount of willpower is going to be the amount of effort that you need to make the change. And so you don't want to be using willpower like that. Willpower is a fatigable resource. It's not this all-encompassing, I muster up my energy and bam, everything's better. Willpower is something that is fatigued. That doesn't mean you can't strengthen it. That doesn't mean you can't recharge it. But at the end of the day, willpower is a finite resource. So we want to use it wisely. We want to be smarter than the willpower. And willpower is fueled by glucose. Glucose is literally the fuel that we use for willpower. And so in knowing that that is the fuel we use for willpower, we also have to know that our bodies use glucose for 1,000 different things. And so be mindful of those times when your body's using more glucose and make sure that your weight loss program can accommodate those moments where you need to have low willpower situations. You need to make your diet, your weight loss program, as low effort as possible. But you can use your willpower strategically. You can use it in little spurts to stop yourself from having to ruminate on food. You can also use willpower in short spurts to energize you. In the morning, I drink water, and I have to drink 1 bottle of water in the morning before I can drink any non-sugary beverage that isn't water. But in the morning, when I do that one little activity, that fuels me and that recharges my battery. That gets me going. But sometimes willpower also means putting something aside and saying, I just need to not ever use willpower on this at all because it's too demanding of my willpower, and my willpower is fatigable. And so instead of having to resist the urge of this one item, I get rid of it and I cut it out. But that may be too hard of a change, and we want to go slow and steady. So instead of getting rid of it, I find an alternative. You can also use willpower to not just block things, you can use it to get started. We've talked about willpower and how it's a fatigable resource, and so you want to use as little as possible. So do the littlest effort as possible. At least start with the littlest effort. If you have trouble getting started, say, I'm going to go and I'm going to fold 1 piece of laundry. It could be a towel. Whatever's the simplest thing for you to go do it. Don't force yourself to do more. Walk in there, not with the intention of doing all of it, with the intention of just doing that one thing. And after that one thing's done, you decide, do you want to sit down or do you want to do more? This will also work for the gym. You're going to the gym? Well, guess what? Some days you're not going to want to go. But if you put the habit that I'm going to get ready regardless, and then once I'm ready, I can decide, do I want to go or do I want to lay back down? That at least gets you started. And that uses such a little willpower to do that one thing, but you have to do it. The trick is that you have to do it with the intention of deciding after. And remember, these are the 5 drivers of action. But action is going to be the motivation, the effort, and the friction. So you want to have things that are low friction. You don't want to force yourself to eat salads all the day. Find yourself low calorie, high volume foods that are going to fill you up but not create a lot of friction. Make them easy choices and start slow, because you're not going to find 30 recipes you like in a week. It's going to take time to find recipes. And lastly, we learn that willpower, at least the version we've been using, comes from Nazis. And we're just not doing that anymore. I hope you've enjoyed this podcast. I hope you've learned something. Please, this is probably the most helpful piece of information that anyone losing weight could have. So please share this video with at least one person. Comment down below what are ways that you've used willpower in your own life, knowing or unbeknowingly, that align with this, or ways that you were using it that you're no longer going to be using it. Because I'm telling you, this is insane. So much of the hate we have towards plus size people comes from this. I mean, literally, you're going to have people look at you and say, because you had weight loss surgery, oh, well, you're lazy, you cheated. You had a GLP, you're lazy, you cheated. Willpower? This whole idea that I have to suffer to succeed? It's bullshit. Tell them to fuck off. No. The truth is that if it was a shortcut and it was easy, everyone who had a weight loss surgery would lose weight. Everyone who took GLPs would be skinny. And that's not the case. All these things are tools. So if you don't have these tools, that's fine. You don't need them to lose weight. What you need is as little willpower as possible. Say it with me. I need as little willpower as possible to succeed in losing weight. God, people are going to hear that and they're going to be pissed. But regardless, I want you to know that you are losing weight. You are not losing your personality. So let's go out there and have a little fucking fun with it, okay? I'll see y'all next week where we're talking about the kitchen. Yes, the kitchen, where weight loss starts. I'll see y'all next time.